So we're bringing some people from another room here so they're not sitting in an empty room. Got to make the most of all your camp time. Oh, so I'm getting the woohoo, baby, we're ready to go. And now, live from the Marriott Courtyard, SeaWorld, Westover Hills, San Antonio, Texas, it's How to Be a Storyteller. I figure you guys have been talked to all day, so I thought I'd just wake you up a little bit. You know, if you want to get up and do some stretching or whatever, like, you know, pretend it's a long-distance flight, you can do that. I won't mind. So my name is Fran Stevenson. I own my own little firm called Step In Communication. Like a lot of people, I wear more than one hat. My other hat is I'm on the adjunct faculty of Northwest Vista College, just down the street. Go Northwest Vista College! This is my buddy over there. And I'm also the social media director for the Atkins Group, where I have some clients as well. So there you have my credentials. And in my former life, I was the communications director at SeaWorld before, and I passed that baton off to Brian Carter a couple of years ago. So this is my hood. So I'm a pinch hitter. So today we're going to talk about storytelling. So how many of you read a book in the last year? I'm giving you some credit. Okay. So, well, depending on the age group of your audience, you have to do a whole year to get a book that wasn't a textbook. Okay. So, so what makes a great story? What makes a great story? What did you read in the last year?
It was a book by Patricia Cornwell. I don't want to tell you the title.
Okay, that's all right. What kind of a story was it? Genre?
It was thriller.
Thriller. Okay. So we got a thriller. What else makes a great story?
Characters.
Characters. What else? Plot. What else? Challenges. Conflict, right? Man versus machine, man versus man, man versus the environment. Classic conflict, right? And we love stories that are funny, that are sad, drama, like a little action. Pardon? Yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, I watch like The Big Bang Theory on Thursday night. That's my, you know, and a few other things that are really mindless, right? Okay. Timeless. Oh, okay. So, all righty. Okay, they're not the same thing. Mindless. Sometimes they're mindless, but many times they're timeless, like Hamlet and some of those. Okay. Whatever. Mindless or timeless? Woo. Okay. So the same components of a good story that you're going to read are the components that you can use to tell stories in your organization, whether you're a for-profit, a nonprofit, or an educational institution. So, full disclosure, okay, they're plain white because I can't really juggle the photo function on my iPad yet. I haven't had it that long, but I was asked to step in and talk about storytelling at lunch. So really, you can take notes because there's about 10 lines in 7 slides. Okay, so as an organization, you need to ask yourself, why do you exist? Okay, so y'all have a mission statement, y'all have a vision statement, you know why you're here. You have some service that you perform for others. Okay, or if you're an educational institution, you have a mission to educate some group, right? So think first about why you exist, okay? Because now you're getting to the heart of the matter. This is the reason for being. This is the theme that's going to help you tell your story, okay? And after you ask that, so what does your organization do? Now, all of you should have an elevator speech. So you can tell someone in 2 sentences what your organization does. So, you know, if you need to refresh your memory, just write it down so you have it in front of you. And that should lead you to the next question, which is, who do you help? Who do you service? What do you do for them? Because stories are all about people. So now start thinking about those people who are your clients or your partners or your patients or however it is you refer to them. And they're your key source for stories, okay? And you've told these stories. You just really haven't leveraged them. So you walked in the office the other day to someone and said, you know, I just found out that one of our donors did such and such. Isn't that awesome? Okay, you just told somebody a story. So who else can you tell it to? Or I just found out that the student who went for this counseling is now on the road to deciding on their major. That's a story. Okay? They're under your noses. They just aren't presenting themselves as stories. So these are the things that you can take from your organization and tell them outside your organization. Okay? And we're gonna do a little Q&A, so we're gonna get you guys thinking about what your stories are here in a little bit. So how do you do this? So you have to be the nosiest person in your organization to find out these stories. Okay? You need to ask questions. Really? Where did that donation come from? Have they donated before? Oh, they had a family with that illness and we helped them and now they're donating? Okay, now you've got to start digging. It's not just, oh, so-and-so gave us $10,000. You know, you got to find out why, what motivated them. You pick up the phone and you call them. Thinking like a reporter, you know, the 20 questions, or a toddler, that's the other good one. Why, Mommy, why? Why, Mommy, why? Why? Asking those questions can help you start to bring those stories to light. And then once you start putting these things down in your head, you can start figuring out what you're going to do with them. You kind of put them in the hopper. You should always have some in the back of your mind. That will help you to make people care about them. So what do you do next? So you start a story file. You could go old school, make it manila, sit it on your desk, throw scraps of paper in it. Or you could be high-tech, create a little folder on your desktop, stories I want to tell. And you create a little Word document or a little text each time that you have this idea. And you know, you could start by getting some people around the lunchroom or whatever and brainstorm a few of them. Now, not all of them are going to be right for right now. You know, the key is when do we want to talk about this and with whom and how. So, you know, don't eliminate them at this point. This is the point where you just want to gather all the great successes that you have in your organization that come from the people and the stories you can tell. Okay, so make a little file. And then find other things to support it. Because we are visual people. And online now, we just don't want to read a 300, 400 word blog post. And we don't want to read a big, long newspaper story or magazine story. We want to see pictures. What do they look like? What are they wearing? How did they look after they were cured? Also, this is my caveat, is obviously many organizations have privacy controls that they need to exert. And this is very important. It's important when you're working with children. It's important when you're working with patients. You know, a lot of you operate under HIPAA laws. Okay, they're not insurmountable. It's about asking permission. What does that mean? Raising your hand and saying, Mother, may I? And then usually there's a form that's about 32 pages long that lawyers will make you sign that, you know, before you can use the story. Just kidding. Although at SeaWorld we did have a few of those forms at one point. They were really cumbersome. But think about how you can use them and tell them legally. Okay? Ask for permission. And then start to plan how you're going to use them. You know, when you're thinking like a journalist, so is it someone who had this, this great breakthrough in medical care and it was right before Christmas? Maybe we should tell that story around Christmas time. Hold on to it till it's Christmas and then, wow, we might get some donations out of it. Okay, so you start planning for how you're going to use them. Okay, and remember, some of the stories are going to be heartwarming and some of them are going to be scary and some of them are going to be funny. But look back at your mission and vision statement. Do they help advance the mission of your organization? And if the answer is yes, then you know you want to try and find a way to tell those stories. Now, you can't obviously tell every single story, and you will have hang-ups. Oh, you know, this person doesn't really want to be interviewed, and this one's really shy, and this one doesn't want their photo taken, and you will always have those kinds of people. So just put them back in the file and just keep asking nicely, maybe once a year, and someday maybe the barriers will break down. You know, look, It would so help our other clients if you could tell your story. You know, we almost take the privacy thing to swing the pendulum the other way when we don't really need to, because if your organization has helped someone and they're happy about it and they've gone on to live a full and complete life, chances are they want to share how you helped them make that happen. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to have what I call a throwdown. Anybody watch Bobby Flay? Okay. So I want you to start thinking about stories that maybe you want to tell in your organization. You don't even have to tell me who you are. And we're going to figure out a way that you can tell them. And I'm going to pick on a friend of mine because I told her I was going to pick on her. So this is Stephanie Finlayon. She's with the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas. I'm learning to say their name right because I'm on their brand committee right now, and it's kind of a bad thing to get the name right of the organization you're currently serving. And I was a Girl Scout for 12 years, so I'm a story right off the bat, okay? So Stephanie comes up to me at a PRSA function and says, Fran, and she knows I'm a Girl Scout because I once told a Girl Scout story at a PRSA function, and I brought my old Girl Scout hat and put it on. It looked really ridiculous, but it was part of the important story I was telling. So she knew I was a Girl Scout, so she came to me and said, here's what we're having, our 100th birthday celebration of the Girl Scouts next year. And we have this big celebration planned. And a lot of things are happening. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to tell stories of successful girls. So, Stephanie, you got one in the hopper? A girl that's done something really cool that you're going to be able to use.
I have several, so now
Okay.
I'm picking out which one.
Okay, so just share one.
Okay, well, just talking about our Gold Award recipients, because a lot of people don't know that Girl Scouts have the highest award a girl can earn, the Gold Award, equivalent to the Eagle Scout. I'll like it when I don't have to say that anymore, but it's constant what I work on. But we've got girls who, one girl in particular who established a library in the Philippines after visiting her home country, and went back and did a collection, a book drive, and mailed them over to her home village and started a library. And she's a leader today, and that's what we want people to realize, that our girls are not just the leaders of the future, but they're making a difference today.
Awesome. So if this was a perfect world and you had absolutely no obstacles in your way, how would you tell this story today?
First, I'd make sure I had, what I always try to do, because that's the hardest part, is trying to collect the information.
Oh, yeah.
So try to collect how many books and how many people did she impact, to really have the numbers behind demonstrating the urgency and the reality of what she really did.
Yeah.
And as far as the method I would use to write the story, or tell the story,
Yep.
She had a YouTube video that we shared and promoted.
Oh, awesome.
And we've got our e-newsletters that we would share it with. I would probably share it with my coworkers so that when they're out with the community, they can share it by word of mouth when they're talking to people.
And probably your board, right?
Yes.
So they can share it as they're out in the community cultivating new donors. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Who has a story they want to try and? Got an idea? Okay, if you're stumped, that's okay too. Yes, ma'am.
I work with P16 Plus Council for Greater County, and our job is basically to share stories of all the nonprofits, our partners, ISDs, universities, and tell their story and best practices that are working in our communities. And I shared a story of a young man who graduated from Lanier, from Breckenridge, and he was a participant, volunteer at the Good Samaritan Community Services. And so he started out there volunteering, but then he became using their services and excelled, got the help he needed, and he ended up getting a really fabulous scholarship and is now at Notre Dame.
Awesome.
So he does a year at Notre Dame, but comes back over the summer to volunteer again.
Wow.
Services.
That's
to Good
awesome.
Sam, over the summer. So I told that story on our site.
Awesome.
And that literally came from me just telling her a story
Awesome.
over lunch, and it's like, well, I should tell a story. So
Yeah,
I went
that's a
and
great
bought-
story.
Fabulous. Cool. Where else would you tell it if you had no holds barred?
Oh, I would use anything I could get, newsletter, And, you know, YouTube, if we were to do a podcast, I just learned about podcasting. I think that would be a fabulous interview to share on a
Absolutely.
podcast.
And we've shared that as well to our board. And when we have certain events and whatnot, where we've got potential donors and things to come along, his name is Jerry. He'll come sometimes and share his story himself.
That's
So
awesome.
in person, so if he's here on a break and we've got something going on,
Yeah.
he can say, you know, I was someone who needed these services. You know, my mom was a single mom, and you know, we grew up on the west side of San Antonio. But through the help of the center, I was able to get on the path to college. Now that I'm in college, I come back and you know, help out these kids as well.
So this is a story that's turned into advocacy, which is the greatest thing that you can have is someone who's advocating for your organization as a past user of the organization or as a graduate of the organization. I mean, having advocates is what every business and nonprofit really wants in social media. So here's an idea. I'm on the board of Guide Dogs of Texas. They are the only guide dog school in Texas that provides guide dogs for blind and visually impaired Texans. And we just finished celebrating Guide Dog Awareness Month in September. Well, a lot of clients, when they come to us, it takes a really long time to get from the point where you start talking about a guide dog to the point where you actually graduate and have a guide dog and you are a team. And that process takes sometimes 2 to 4 years. So that's a really long story to try and tell. So one of the things that we thought we would do is that a lot of people don't know how long it takes and how comprehensive it is to train these dogs. And so one of the things that we did during Guide Dog Awareness Month in September was we put together stories of key volunteers who raise puppies, which means you take a dog into your home at age 6 weeks and you keep it until 1 year and then you have to give it back. Now those of you who know and have animals, this is a huge commitment. But you know, we say that these dogs are called to a higher level of service than your average pet. So we cultivated stories from those who'd been raising puppies. As well, the organization has a cooperative cooperative venture with the Travis County prison system, and there are inmates who are also committed to raising puppies, and they raise them in the jail because guess what? They can be with them 24/7. And that's also a very successful program. So rather than trying to shine a light on our clients at the moment, what we did was we showed the light, sorry, it's getting late in the day and I'm getting tongue-tied, on the volunteers. And volunteers are also advocates for your organization and they have great stories to tell. And one lady, she has raised something like 14 puppies for the organization. So she knows everything there is to know about guide dogs. We don't even have to give her message points. She's out there advocating. That's another way to tell a story. Particularly if you're doing something where you're worried about confidentiality, this is a way to still get your message out, but maybe bridge the gap between those who whose stories cannot be told directly. Okay, let's have another challenge. Anybody else wanna? Yes.
It was only partially successful. I think it would have been much more successful if we had totally given ourselves over to social media. But administration sort of wanted to keep their hands and control it. But I think if we do this again, we learned some good lessons. At Northwest Vista College, one of the things that we were trying to do, we're trying to accomplish several things. Increase graduation rates. A two-year college, one of the challenges we face is students come and get 25 hours, 30 hours, and then they transfer to UTSA or wherever without getting actually their associate's degree.
Okay.
And the way the state funding is changing, they're going to be looking more at those metrics. So we wanted to build awareness about graduation, encourage students to complete their core and then take their core complete to our transfer institutions. And then we also had a real practical problem. We needed to find a speaker for our graduation ceremonies. And so what we did was we developed a contest. I'm not terribly happy with the name. It ended up being called Graduation Idol.
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
We put advertising around campus encouraging students to submit videos. And we did get several videos. I was hoping for dozens of videos.
Yeah.
We had several videos submitted. We gave them a little prompt. Tell us the story of your educational journey and with particular attention to the kinds of obstacles you had to overcome, because community college students, of course, come from a variety of backgrounds,
right.
and they face obstacles that traditional college students don't necessarily face. But as a result, we did find a winner, and that person, as a reward, got to give the graduation speech to thousands of students and their parents. I think in the future, if we that we were hoping it would sort of become a competition, that more and more videos became available, students would say, I can be done, etc. But the group sort of wanted to kind of keep their hands on the videos, screen them, etc. I think we did it again and just sort of surrendered it and had the videos out there for the world to see. It would build more momentum and get even more stories out there. But we had several compelling stories submitted and we're able to share those.
And I think one of the issues too is people are really afraid, oh my God, what if someone says something negative? And so that control is in part to try and control that. But usually, you know, the conversation in social media is largely positive, and the positive to negative ratio is very high positive to very low negative. And I think, you know, even, and I've been involved in some situations where we had to deal with something negative on a Facebook page or a blog. You know, I mean, really, people don't come into fisticuffs, and you know, and if they start using rude words, then of course that you have, of course, to get rid of them, because that's your social media policy says no rude words. So, you know, we don't use those in storytelling, at least not in school, right? But that's a great example, and it's a great way to start. I mean, at least you've started to tell that story, and you can draw on all those videos to make the next contest better, right? Cool, okay. Who else has a story they want to? Yes, ma'am.
I work with a community coalition that focuses on drug and alcohol prevention, and a year ago we started getting members of the coalition to do little videos just sort of explaining why they decided to join and what participating in the coalition meant to them.
Oh, neat.
And we posted them up on YouTube, but I think we are to continue to do that. They were very, very informal. They kind of stuttered during them, so probably having a little bit more preparation before they sat down to do that, and perhaps a little bit more in-depth story, something along those lines would be better.
So beyond YouTube, where are you sharing them? Yeah, now see, those to me, you can link to them into so many things, into your newsletters, into, you know, you can even take the audio from those and turn them into a podcast, pull the audio out of those, and put those into different places. Blog posts, Facebook, I mean, you know, think about all the ways that you can stitch that together. Or even if would they be considered board members or advisory board members, or how would you call those people who made the videos?
Coalition members.
Okay, so, you know, use it to recruit other coalition members in that effort. Cool, that's a good one, I like that one. Let's hear some more.
I have a challenge.
Good, that's what we wanted, that's what the throwdown's about.
I work with consumer credit counseling services, and what we do is we help people get out of debt, budget education, and so forth. And we have a lot of success stories. A lot of people who pay down their debt, get out of debt completely, and stay debt-free. But getting the success stories out of them is difficult because they're embarrassed that they were even placed in that position and so forth. So for us to get those stories, they don't want to be in front of a camera to do a video. They don't, I mean, letters, we'll do letters, but they don't want their names. So it doesn't, so to us it's hard to tell the story when we have all these success stories. We don't really.
The podcast, the voice.
Just their voice?
That's one idea. Another idea is to use a pseudonym. And I always give this, exercise this with caution, but in areas where confidentiality is pretty important, and particularly in some areas of the medical field, I've seen some medical magazines that were for donors that would say, take the case of Sue. Sue was a 25-year-old, blah, 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 right? And in the end, you say, for whatever reason, confidentiality, the names were changed. And I don't think you can do it for everything, but if you have some compelling stories, I think you can try it and see how your group would react. So you could say, your age and maybe something about, lifestyle, like is a 25-year-old computer engineer. I mean, there's thousands of those out. Or is a 25-year-old mother of 3. I mean, so these are things that aren't going to necessarily identify them. And, I think it's hard to do, but I think for you, that may be the only way that you can make those stories happen. And use I've seen that in a couple of budget things. Susan, not her real name, And in many magazines, women's magazines often use it when there's a confidentiality issue. So you might want to try it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes?
Here's an idea too. Imagine, you've seen those television news interviews where they sort of have the shadow over their head. Okay, so what you do is you start your video with several just short clips. I was $50,000 in debt, or Meredith was on the rocks. Several of those sort of strung together. And then you cut to their actual faces. The lights are on now, and it's the successful. I got out of debt.
Yeah,
So you don't exactly know which horror story relates to which success story, but you get the idea that the humanity of it is still
That's a
there.
great idea.
And when the light's shining on them, they're getting the part that you're proud about, and the dark part is sort of kept anonymous.
The only thing I wouldn't do is the deep throat kind of thing where, you have the blackened screen and the back with the altered voice. Like that's just like, that's a little too much drama,
Because all the scams and all the other, the
Right.
settlements and how we're different, how we are the good guys. There's
Right.
not enough to sell that already. So.
But that's definitely worth a shot. Yes, in the corner.
Something that I teach in another organization in my previous life is you have the person narrating the story because their voice and their compassion and their feeling to it you cannot duplicate no matter what. But I know that the clients that I've worked with in the past don't want their faces to be shown or their names used. They don't mind using their voice and narrating the story because it's easier for them to talk to you. They're not looking at a camera and you're just talking and you're recording that, and then the imagery that you're using is maybe, let's say you're talking about, God forbid, but about an abused family that they, pulled themselves out of that and are moving forward. Maybe it is footage of other children, or a playground, or a park, or some, not them in other words.
Right.
Not actors either, but using other
Yeah.
kinds of imagery. A woman walking in, with a smile on her face. So you're using that imagery that's still delivering the message, but you have her or him or however doing the voiceover, telling the story, because that you cannot duplicate.
Right.
I don't care who you get. That reflection is just absolutely right.
And a professional video team can help you make that kind of a story work using B-roll and using, kind of a combination of stock footage. And, if you're going to go to video with that, it might cost you a little more money, but I think it'd be worth trying to see, as a test to see if it works. Did people call the number because they saw the story, or did they donate, or did they, did inquiries on the website go up, that kind of thing. So, cool. Great sharing. Let's have some more. Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking about, I work at Trinity University, and
I knew I recognized you. All day long I've been going, gosh, she looks so familiar, but I didn't want to go right up to your name tag and go, who are you?
really small. So I'm telling stories about alumni all the time, but sometimes I can, or the process can feel and look a little stalkerish.
Oh.
How do people, and like I'm trying to leverage LinkedIn a little bit more to stalk people and find their stories so I
Yeah.
can tell them and retell them. And so do people have either suggestions about using LinkedIn for research, and also if you are doing your detective work, how do you make it so that you're not creeping people out?
Yeah. So is there I know that my my undergrad, my school, Miami of Ohio, after I put Miami in my resume, I was like pretty much automatically enrolled in the Miami University group. So people are grouping up on LinkedIn and those kinds of things. And
We have a Trinity alumni group that I help moderate.
Yeah, good, cool.
2,700, we've got 2,700, so
That's
it's not bad.
that's pretty good.
And I'm thinking about going through and checking out people's profiles, because that stuff, of course, is way more updated than, what they may be telling me.
True.
That they're doing or what they're doing or things like
Yeah.
that. So I thought I would kind of peruse all the profiles and see who's, in the Peace Corps in Iran and, tell that story, that kind of thing. But again, I don't want to, I'm hoping that if I reach out to these people and say, hey, we want to tell your story, they're not going to say, who are you?
Run screaming from the room. Yeah. Well, first of all, to me, the benefit of that kind of group is you have already an affinity. You're not just Facebook friends. You all went to the same school. And there's a certain amount of pride about that. And I think with these kinds of groups, you often have a better chance at, first of all, start with a survey, not the 4,500 question, 19-page survey, but start with a simple survey. You know, we are trying to make sure we thank donors appropriate, and we want to share great alumni stories to continue to inspire students. If you were inspired, you know, what would make you want to tell your story? And ask them maybe 3 or 4 basic questions. And then, you know, you're going to get the dialogue going rather than just, hey, you know, I mean, you're asking them to sort of give back to the school, yet it's not a really high commitment. Fill out my 3 or 4 question survey, and that might help give you some direction as to avoiding the stalkerism, and maybe you don't word it that way. You know how surveys are a little more milquetoast, but you know, kind of say, well, we don't want to stalk you, but we want to tell your story. So what would motivate you to tell your story about how Trinity has enabled you? And find out. And you know, that might give you the evidence you need to move to the next level.
You can also ask them to recommend someone else that they know.
Yes.
That went there, because then you have a reason to contact them.
And I would say definitely people who are active on LinkedIn are pretty good at keeping their profiles up to date, and it's probably way better than the alumni records at the school in a lot of ways. Yeah. Cool, good one. Oh, are you just stretching over there? Yeah. Okay. Now you're going to have to tell a story. Any others? How are we doing on time? Anybody keeping the watch? Oh, okay, good. All right, so to wrap it up. So in the beginning, we talked a little bit about what the elements are of a good story. And I think really we all know what they are. It's just we're so used to the way that we operate within our organizations that we don't think outside. How can I use these storytelling elements, the great you know, plot, character, romance, humor, you know, suspense, to tell stories within our organizations? And if we start to think like that and think like a reporter, and maybe, you know, think like Murder, She Wrote, or, you know, you're going to uncover the mystery, I think that helps to break down the barriers. Also, if you are in an organization which is, you know, many nonprofits, they don't have, there's not 50 of you or 70 of you, there's 3 or 4, and then you have a group of volunteers. So find some of those volunteer advocates that are already in your organization and say, look, you know, here's what I'm looking to do. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Bring me back the stories, you know, and sort of dispatch them when they're out at events or whatever it is that they do on a volunteer basis to help your organization to come and bring back those stories to you, because you can't be everywhere. So if, you know, enlist some help to kind of bring them back to you. And I think once you start gathering that information, and it's sort of, I've seen it happen in a couple of organizations when they started to take a storytelling approach to their communication, that the walls start to come down, and next thing you know, you're flooded with stories. All of a sudden, everybody wants to help you tell the story. So you can then create what might be an ongoing stream of ideas to make your organization more personal and tell those stories of donors, of clients, or whomever it is that can help move the business objectives of your organization. So that, yes, ma'am.
So if I'm the one taking all the testimonials,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to go to development and get those officers to share the story, is it best if I create that story from the information I've gotten from the people in the front lines, from the
Mm-hmm.
nurses or whatever it is it best I give them just the basic information that they can develop their own story their way, or is it best if I just create the whole story and share it with them?
Well, that's a good question, because you know, you don't want to spend a ton of time for, you know, this other department over here that may or may not be interested in it. So I think you probably need to whet their appetite. So maybe almost like create, like it would be a Facebook post. Hey, I've heard this great story about, in you know, an abstract, if you will, 3 or 4 sentences about what this is about. Do you think this is worthy of, and if so, let me help you develop it, because I have this personal connection. I think that's the way to do it, without doing all the work and then letting it's sitting on a shelf not going anywhere, because that's, to me, is the worst. The untold story that's, you know, in the back burner. So Well, thanks y'all for taking a little journey on stories with me. I appreciate your patience with me pitching in, and enjoy the rest of Action Camp.